would sort of be a waste of time, so we're asking a waiver of that, and the builder will have to apply for an ENS at the time that they actually do construction. The next one's an environmental impact assessment report. We've done that for the first phase for the other portion of the plan, and we don't, that's what we're, instead of doing it a second time, we've already done that when we did the first submittal. The big one is minimum street width. I've actually, in this request, asked for partial modification, and I propose that, and the plan shows that we would widen the road from the new Concord Road to the top of the hill where the railroad tracks are. But I really would prefer not to widen that road at all. We are serious about the farm. We are dead serious about the farm. The young people that at the farm are taking manure back and forth across the street in carts. There's a lot of foot traffic between the two fields, and all that widening is going to do is speed traffic up. I mean, right now it's 20 foot wide. 20 foot is more than enough for 2 cars to pass. The rest of the road's going to stay 20 foot. You get to the top of the hill, it's 20 foot, so you're going to go through a narrowing, and it just doesn't make sense to us. And I'd like to narrow the road. I'd like to go in and dig 4 foot of it out and make it so people would slow down. But I know we can't do that. But we'd really prefer not to widen the road at all. But if we have to do it, then it would only be that area from Concord to the top of the hill, if in fact the board decides that needs to be done. And I did say.
Can I stop you for a second?
Sure.
So your proposal is which one? I heard you say you're proposing, but then you're retracting. Which one are you proposing?
I'm proposing that I'd prefer not to widen it at all. But as a way of trying to work something out, I propose that we would widen it from Concord to the top of the hill.
So from here to the railroad tracks?
Right.
Is that correct?
And that's shown on the plan.
And not from the railroad tracks to Constitution?
We don't own that.
They don't own that land. So, yeah, okay.
We don't own that.
Can't
The
take it.
additional part that would abut, see here, Kirshner would be right here. This from the new road Concord just to this point. So it's this section here, correct, that you're,
It'll be the waiver.
it'll be the
Okay.
waiver.
It belongs to Landmark Lumber.
No, I'm talking about here between
Oh,
Concord.
okay, yeah. That,
This is the section you're actually asking for the waiver.
yes,
Okay.
And I believe on the
other side of the road.
north side of the road too.
Yeah. What we're proposing is a 2 foot widening from Concord.
So he's only proposing the southern side that will be widened.
And the next one is a drainage easement on the plan. If we had actually dealt with that before with the road, Concord coming in, if we show, the farm is going to continue to be used as a farm. In fact, it's going to be even more productive in a way that would enhance the streams and the wetlands and things like that. So we're asking not to have an easement shown in those areas that are going to continue to be farmed. The 2 lots are completely out of the CEA. We made sure that the 2 lots were clear of anything that would have any effect on that. It's the farm itself, and the farm, it makes no practical sense to develop it. The 20 acres we're proposing to continue to farm, it would, between steep slopes, streams, wetlands, everything else, it makes no sense to develop it. It makes a lot more sense to do what we're doing and make a regenerative farm of it.
But can I ask, to be clear, are you suggesting that you're asking for modification or waiver of the CEA area that is required by ordinance?
The section I'm asking for a waiver of is 22.525-1.
Okay, I'm trying to understand what you're asking for not be shown on the plan.
An easement. Let me look at, I brought that along, and I tell you the truth, that was brought up at the meeting. That's the only reason I've put it on this request.
So Phil, in the critical environmental areas, you are allowed to do agriculture within the CEA.
But what's the easement requirement?
The easement would be the delineation of the CEA.
Correct.
And that would be to keep any non-permitted uses out of those areas.
So we've already done that.
Yeah, so you would
Okay,
be
we don't need
fine.
that waiver.
You don't need that waiver, yeah.
We don't need that
Yeah, as
waiver.
long as you're gonna do agriculture, you're allowed to continue.
I
to do
misunderstood
agriculture.
that what, because it was in the comments, so it confused me a little bit.
Yep. Okay, yeah.
We've asked for a waiver of curbs along the road and sidewalks. And again, for farming practices, that would just be a very negative thing. And that's it.
And I guess, does staff have any comments on these at all?
I'll give you my comments. My comment is, my concern is not so much the existing conditions, nor what he's planning to do with the property. My concern is when the development, which you see parts of to the left on the screen, is fully developed. The reason that this road, Concord Road, was required by borough and why the township went into an agreement with the borough is this as an access point is necessary to serve that development. So when that development is fully built out, there will be significant traffic that's coming through that area that we're talking about. That he's asked that there be widened on one side. That's where we're saying we think it should be fully widened per your ordinance. That's my position.
And if I can respond to that too. You know, again, what's the advantage of widening? It's just gonna make people drive faster. You know, you're gonna be, there's 34 houses there. Those 34 houses aren't gonna all pull out at the same time. They aren't gonna need a wider road to drive out and access. And there still is the access at Pleasant. And I went there today and looked. The Pleasant access is a phenomenal, great way to get on the Constitution. If I were in that development, I wouldn't torture myself by going out that way. It's a great emergency exit. It was required by New Freedom as an emergency exit. But realistically, if someone has to come to the top of that hill and get on the Constitution, after 2 or 3 times, they'll go over to Pleasant and go out that way. Pleasant's a great location to enter Constitution, in my opinion.
I agree, but people don't have common sense, and I can just see them going out that way, because it's a little bit closer to Shrewsbury.
Yeah,
But
but it's a terrible intersection.
it is, yes.
And Pleasant's one of the best intersections in township, or the area. And again, I go back to what's the advantage? They're gonna drive faster. That's a problem all over this area. That's what's a problem on Mount Airy Road. They drive faster because it's wide. So where's the benefit of making it wider? It's 20.
I don't think the width of a road has anything to do with speed.
Well, what's the advantage?
Because all the speed studies we've done, it doesn't matter what the width is. There's gonna be speeding to
I
some
understand.
degree.
Okay, what's the advantage of widening the road? Look what it's, right down the road to Strawberry Fields. 40 years ago, I widened that road in front of those houses. None of the other end of the road has never been wide. So what was the advantage? You know,
The advantage will be when the rest of that farm is developed, it's gonna be widened to match what's done in Strawberry Fields.
Rest of what farm?
The Miller farm.
Oh. Okay.
Also, I have a comment. If you're looking at this also being an emergency egress point in and out, you're going from, a brand-new road that's the right width, all of a sudden you're on a pretty small road. And the thought being, emergency vehicles and/or future traffic should be able to get out there and it function like the other end of this development.
I understand. Look, I'm not gonna argue over this. I'm not saying this because I'm trying to save a couple bucks. I'd rather write you a check. I'd rather write you a check and give tribute that way, because that's the way I feel about it. But I'm fine. If you say we need to widen it from Concord up to the top of the hill, I understand. I'm on board. I'm not gonna argue it over for years. But I really think it's better to keep it narrow and keep traffic slower. That's all. Thanks a lot.
If I could add just 2 more comments, and we had talked about this at staff meeting. The last 2 items, the 22603-1 for the curb and sidewalks, we would suggest that you include, if you approve that waiver, that you include the 6-month note be added to the plan, which is what we typically do, which would be that they need to install curb and sidewalks within 6 months upon notification by the township.
Would that be after the houses are built, or
It'd
Anytime.
be
Anytime.
It'd be any time.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be 20, 30 years, it may be never.
I'm fine with that.
So are these sidewalks on the new Concord Road going down the hill?
Concord?
The new road that's going through the farm? Is that where the sidewalks?
The part of the road, Phil, is gonna be in Shrewsbury Township. Is New Freedom making you put curb and sidewalk there? No,
We're doing curbs.
you're doing curbs?
We're doing
Okay.
sidewalk. But there's guardrail around a lot of that because of slopes.
Okay.
It's pretty steep.
Yeah.
So what section is not getting sidewalks?
If you look at the screen up there, Todd's
Yeah.
gonna,
Oh, on Kirshner.
Oh, on Kirshner.
On Kirshner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no curb or sidewalk.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm fine with the 6-month note. I have no
Yeah,
problem with that.
that's there.
To be clear here, I want to be clear because it's a little confusing. This subdivision plan that he's proposing does not include the Concord Road. That was previously
Yeah.
reviewed as part of the other subdivision.
And again, I'm fine with the 6-month note. I have no problem with that. I'd like to be for the road width too. That would work for me, but I'm fine with that.
So, Phil, you said that, I think, a meeting a while back, that you wanted to move the driveway into that farm, which is right on that corner. Is that gonna happen?
That has nothing to do with what we're doing with this
No.
plan.
No, I understand that.
Once the road's built, if we can find a good way, we don't have the farm plan completely done. I'm dead serious about making that place really special. And I don't have all the planning done for the farm. I know we're gonna have a greenhouse. I know we're doing some pastures and some other stuff. There's some slopes where it wouldn't make any sense at all to try to get the horses and buggies onto that road from the slopes. But if we can find a place that works around everything that gets into it, I'd rather take it off that road for sure.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Mhm.
If nothing else, we're gonna cut that hill down. We might do that yet this year. Because when you come down to where that hill is where you're coming out,
It's
you can't
dangerous.
see.
Right.
All right, do we have anybody in the audience that would like to provide a comment at all? Okay. Any additional comments?
No, we can go down through one at a time, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll start with 22403 and 22404. The first one's listed on the application. So I'll make a motion that we recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors, the first two modification requests listed on the application form. And is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then up next, we have 22404-4, which is the ENS plan. Did anybody want to make a motion on that one?
I'll make a motion, we approve, recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then up next, we have 22404-5, which is for the environmental impact assessment report.
He's saying
We
that
don't need
one's
that.
already done, is that correct, Todd? Is that?
We'd strike it.
Okay, that one's done.
No, you still need to act on it.
Oh.
He doesn't want to submit it again with this plan. That's why
Right.
he's asking for a waiver.
Oh, okay.
I'll make a recommendation that we recommend approval for this one also to the Board of Supervisors.
All right, I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and the next one is 22505-1, which is the minimum street width. And so just to clarify, the request there is that the road is not widened.
Except for right here.
It would be widened there?
Yeah,
On one
just on the one side where the two new lots are proposed.
Okay.
But our ordinance says it needs to be widened on
both sides, the
on
entirety
both
of the road
sides, the entirety
that
of
he
the road
fronts on.
to what width?
50.
It's,
50.
Well, the right of way is 50, but it's,
60.
what is it, 20, oh, I gotta look that up.
Let's say 20.
I wanna say 28-foot cartway, yeah.
24.
24?
I think, I have to be right. I don't.
Hold on a second.
And that road now fills probably,
20 foot,
it's 20 foot.
20 foot or something. my interlocal streets, minimum parkway width is 24.
Yeah.
And we are dedicating a 50-foot right-of-way.
So you're proposing 2-foot widening on the south side,
Right.
none on the north. So you'll be taking it from 20 to 22
Right.
for a portion of the southern side.
That's true.
From there down.
If I can
But
see
it wouldn't
this
be
right.
after the railroad tracks, it
He's not doing the, I'll call it the western, can you show where you're, he's not doing the section above,
Across from the
The-
farmhouse.
Yeah,
yeah.
where
He's
the,
not doing that section right there,
where the farm's driveway
right there.
is.
On the south side, he's not doing that one. On the north side, he's doing none of it.
We don't know the area above the railroad tracks.
I don't know how to word this, but I'll make a motion, maybe you can help me with it a little bit. I guess we're denying the request. I think we should widen it at least the 2 foot on the south side and make a note on the plan that, the 6-month note like we do for the sidewalks, that if it's needed, we can require at that point, or is that not doable? That way we kinda give and take a little bit.
Never seen that done for road widening.
Yeah.
I've only seen it done for curb and
Just
sidewalk.
Right,
sidewalk,
right,
yeah.
'cause you gotta put up
I've
ponds
changed
and
that to
everything.
widening.
The actual
To the full
request does
24?
state the 2 foot on that
I
side.
was do
Yeah.
that second.
Yeah.
I'm trying to answer his question, which is,
That's
know,
the
but it-
crazy part.
At least
I'm
these
a
people
little
can get
So
out.
the township
Go ahead.
should be doing it's gonna bottleneck down between Constitution and the railroad
That
tracks,
was my
correct?
second question.
So is that borough property out there?
That's land, that's the lumber
That's in
company's
the
property.
township. That's
it's in,
lumber
it's
company.
in the township.
It's township.
It's not owned by him.
So who would, if we say we deny this, it needs to be widened to the full 24 foot. At this time, to me, it does not make sense because we still have that bottleneck right at the intersection where it's probably the most important. Can we require a landmark to widen that, or is that gonna be the township responsibility?
It would be when Landmark makes improvements or develops land or whatever, or the township could do it.
Okay.
I can't commit that the township would, but it is a short section. But something to keep in mind is, we've run into this problem and we're kind of paying for it now. And I'm gonna use Mount Airy Road and all the commercial district. As you know, we're gonna be spending probably about $1 million on curb and sidewalk through grants. And that's because the township kept providing waivers for curb and sidewalk. It's like, well, there's nothing nearby.
Right.
But then as it grew and grew and grew, well, they didn't have to do it. So now we have an area that should be fitted out for pedestrian development. So that's what happens here is, it may not make sense when you look at it and think, well, gee, that's weird. It's gonna be a bottleneck. It doesn't go out the rest of the way. But as development continues, then those developers are gonna have to make those improvements. Because otherwise, if you don't, then you're still gonna have a narrow road that gets a lot of traffic.
And the 6-month note for roadways is not common at all, whether we'd say 2 or 4 foot.
I've never seen
I've
that done
never seen it
before.
done for a
Yeah.
street
Alright.
widening.
And the reason, I've never seen it done before, usually it's done for curb and sidewalk because we can approach a property owner when we believe it's needed. Here, the roadway improvements is a little different construction mechanism.
Yes.
The only other thing I'll say is, and I appreciate what Phil's saying, that, he believes that a narrower road keeps it more rural and maybe keeps the speed down. I'm not sure I agree with that. I will just tell you that 11 to a 12-foot lane is what we normally would want to see for a cartway. So that's why you get to the 24. When you have the traffic coming out of that development, and maybe it won't go that way, but we have the ordinances written for a reason, and the waiver is to say that this site is specifically different than what we wrote the ordinance for. And I just can't come up with that rationale here.
Agree.
We're proposing 22-foot cartway with a 2-foot addition from Concord Road, and there's no reason for someone to come off of Concord nothing gonna be wider beyond this point. It's not gonna happen. So that's what we propose to go with what we've come up with, to make it that 2 foot, to make it 22 foot wide from the new Concord to the end of our property. And we worded that in our request, so you would just be approving what we requested.
All right, so what was your motion again then, Brian?
I think my motion's no longer applicable. We can't give and take a little bit. We gotta do one or the other.
You can't make a motion agreeing with what my request is that true or not?
Pardon?
They can make a motion based on my actual request, is that true?
Only do the 2 foot.
Yeah, they.
I'd rather see the full width, because progress happens, and it's much harder to put in a road later down the road when other things get improved.
Doing it twice.
You wanna make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that we approve this partial street widening, as long as it meets the minimum cart width requirement per the ordinance, 24 feet.
So then you'd be rejecting
You'd be
the waiver
rejecting,
Yeah.
request.
recommending denial.
Recommending denial.
All right, is there a second?
Does that,
And are you saying all the way back to the farmhouse too? Do I understand that?
I don't think it'd have to be there,
I think it has to be from Concord up to the landmark property,
to the railroad track.
yes.
Which isn't the whole thing.
Yeah,
If you're gonna go from Concord to the railroad, then you have to suggest that you're recommending a waiver for a portion of the road not to be widened.
So we're widening part of it and not requiring the other 40%.
You need to widen both sides of the road by 2 feet. What Phil is what Phil's offering is 2 foot widening on the southern side from Concord to the railroad tracks. He's offering no widening on the northern side for the entire length of his property, and no widening for the southern side from Concord to the left. Does that make sense? That's what he's offering, so I just want to be clear as to what we're agreeing to.
Was there a motion and a second?
I don't think so.
Just a motion.
Just the motion, okay. So it can die for lack of a second if someone wants to make another motion.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request. We require the full widening from Concord to the landmark property heading towards Constitution. Needs to be the full width of 24 foot. The secondary area, which is from Concord to the north, does not have to be widened at all. That can remain the same way it is now.
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, and then we don't have to act on 525-1 for the drainage easement, is that correct?
That's correct.
And then last, we have 22603-1 and 22606-1 for the curbs and the sidewalks.
Need a 6-month notice.
Yeah, if you want, like, if you make a motion to include that.
Want me to?
Yeah.
Yeah. I motion that we approve these two, conditional to having a note, 6-month note that says we can contact the owner if curbs or sidewalks are needed in the future.
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Do we just have the modification request then, Todd? I mean, that's all that's on the, we don't do anything with the plan. Right.
There's no plan
Okay.
action.
No, yeah, there's no plan.
Okay.
And was that motion for both the curb and the sidewalk?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Todd, can I ask that they act on Phil's planning module too, authorizing you to sign it so I can get signed to DEP? Okay. Yeah, so he has to do a planning module, he's doing one lot septic, So you as a planning agency have to authorize Todd as the secretary to sign the module. I've already reviewed everything, it's fine.
This
We
is for
just
the
need to make
on-lot
that
septic
formal-
for the
yeah,
2 lots.
Correct, yeah. Yeah, they got a primary and backup for each lot and then a reserve area for the existing farmhouse. So you guys just need to make
Is-
a recommendation that,
It is an odd spot for 2 lots in my opinion.
yeah,
Anyhow,
it passed for standard systems, so it's good. So you just need to authorize Todd as the secretary to sign the module so it can get sent to DP, because that process takes 90 days in itself just to get the module.
I'll make a motion that Todd can sign the module
Okay.
I'll
for
second
the
that.
township.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Keith.
Yep.
All right. Up next, we have for the zoning hearing board, it's application 2025-03, Joyce Petrick.
Good evening. My name is Mark Roberts. I have 2 clients here with me tonight, Joyce Hetrick, who would like a little bit less lawn to take care of, and Micah Mitchell, who would like to have a little bit more lawn to take care of. I'm not sure why. But anyway, there is a drawing that was prepared by Gordon Brown that shows the proposal. Obviously, no new lot being created, no particular development involved, just a realignment of lots between neighbors. When we look at the 2 lots now, the current dimensions of Mrs. Hetrick's land are approximately 180 feet along Country Club Road, about 200 feet along Holly Road, and the Metzel property is 100 feet along Holly Road and 170 feet deep. If the subdivision is approved as presently drawn, Mrs. Hetzel's land would still be 180 feet along Country Club Road, but would be 152 feet along Holly Road, and the Metzel property would be 148 feet along Holly Road, rather than the current 100. Also, same depth, about 170 feet. So the line is positioned where it is because it aligns nicely with the other existing monuments. It shares the common corner between the other lots in the rear, and it goes right to the utility pole in the front. That's where the parties thought that the line ought to be, because it's approximately equidistant between the 2 houses. So it's very minor dimensional variance being requested, and we don't see a reason to say no. So we're here to ask you to say yes.
Fully support it.
Yeah, I don't see any use to
I'd like
it.
the motion.
It's pretty much a no-brainer.
It's just a lot line, right?
A motion, we recommend the variance request to the zoning board.
You just make a recommendation that you support her application, and you
Yeah.
recommend that they approve her application. So,
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. That was an easy one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think you can, for the notes, just, you recommend approval as submitted.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
As submitted per what Keith said.
Okay, have a pleasant evening, everyone.
Thank you.
That was a fun one.
They all need to be like that.
All right. And I guess there's no new business, old business. The pending plan report is attached.
Tuesday.
Are there any planning commission comments?
No.
All right, well then, I call the meeting adjourned.